G'day and welcome back to my channel. Well, can you believe it has been 7 years since I purchased this kit? And yes, it has been a slow build, to say the least. I mean, I've done a bit every now and then. My tastes have changed with modelling. I mean, I did a lot of tanks when I first started out, and I did quite a bit on this, and it had a huge success with a video on the track links, which so many people really enjoyed the method that I'd come up with, which I distilled from other people's methods, and come up with something that was fairly simple, easy, and worked every time. And I know a lot of you have commented that you have replicated that method and it's worked for you. So that's all good. But, yeah, Pantherus unfinishedus. Yes, the poor old Panther still needs to be finished. Now, in the previous video, I put on all the photo etch for all the tools. That was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed doing that. Now, it is time to paint. But it's been so long that I have some problems. One is my track links, and these are all individual magic tracks, by the way. So they're links, magic track links. They should be sitting there, doing, and they've tightened up over the years. Now I've only white glued on those wheels because I planned to fairly soon after I put the links on, pull off the wheels, pull off the links, paint everything up individually. But after 7 years, I'm worried white glue is probably set hard. So I don't know. I've got to figure out a way to either get those track links off or work out a way to get the sag down and paint them in place. There's a few issues to overcome here, but it's still going to be good no matter what I do. It's a lovely kit. I put a lot of effort into it. I mean, it was an old Imperial Dragon Panther, so it wasn't like a very detailed kit. But adding the photo etch and the magic tracks and a few other things and a metal barrel has really lifted this one and given it quite a presence. So, would you like to see me pull this apart and try and paint it and put it all back together in a very unusual camo scheme that river counters may get upset about, but I have photographic evidence. Yes, so fuck the river counters. Alright, let's get on with this. Roll the music. Now, if you are enjoying the content on my channel, and I forget to say this in a lot of videos, so a bit of housekeeping. Look, please like, comment, just be respectful, subscribe, or you can even join Patreon and the YouTube members, and you get to see the videos early and without any adverts, and a lot of behind the scenes stuff as well. So let's get on with this paint job. And as you know, if you've watched my videos, I like the building. I'm not so sure about the painting, but so that the painting becomes interesting for me, I like to do a different sort of camo paint scheme. I always come up with something that is going to inspire me. I mean, if you've seen what I did to the Schnell boat and a few other things, and I even had a tiger tank, a little toon one, and I painted it as a real, like, live living tiger with actual tiger stripes and things, right? So for me, to keep engaged with the painting, it's going to have to be interesting. So more of that later. And I have been hinting about cephalopod, but that was a ruse. Explain in a sec. Okay, so disassembly. Well, luckily, as with most tanks, turret comes off. There's no interior on this one. I need to find a way to set my barrel so it sort of stays up a bit more, because yeah, it's quite heavy in there. So I might put a little spacer in there to make that sort of a little bit off level. That's not hard to do. The sides of the turret are very plain, and you probably should put or could put Zimmerit on there. It would certainly make it much more interesting, but I have neither the time nor the interest. I did have a set of Zimmerit which were like those stick-on, like they're almost like a decal, but it was sort of a bit more, it was thicker and had a lot of relief. They're a good idea if you want instant Zimmerit. You can't be bothered going through all the puttying and scraping, and those stickers or decal Zimmerits are terrific. But I haven't got that anymore. That got sold with another Panther G that I bought. So yeah, might put some stippling on there with Mr. Surfacer. Don't know. You ever think about that? But essentially the turret's just about done. I'll have a check in the kit. There is a lid for here that I left off. So I'll have to paint that separately, and there's an antenna which I'm not sure it goes here at the back. We'll have a look. I know there's one of those sort of weird big ones like a big tree, but I don't think I'll use that one. It's not like the one that I'm going to do with the camo scheme. Now, luckily, I forethought, and this comes off. So yeah, the deck comes off the tub. You can see the original colour of the plastic there, and how just in the sunlight and sitting in the hobby room, how that has discoloured over the years. Yeah, so that comes off. That's handy. That could be a help in exposing my track links. So there they are. But the big question here is, can I get those links off? Yeah, is this possible? Do my wheels and do my, well, they seem to be stuck. They're stuck fast. Now, my links should be loose. Well, they're not so much loose because they've tightened up. let me be a bit clearer than that. Put your teeth in, Harry. My links have tightened up, but they shouldn't be cemented in. They shouldn't be cemented in at all. There shouldn't be any cement on. I think if I break my links back here, which was the break point from before, in fact I can see it, so if I can somehow persuade those to come apart. Now you can often do this with a bit of Tamiya thin. Now what I normally do with track links is I put the join below a wheel, either this one or that one, because that's an easy point to, when you rest on the bench, it's going to flatten out and it'll glue nice and straight. So, well, at least it'll sort of set in position nice and straight. So I would say it's that one. So I should be able to put some Tamiya thin on there, flood it, and that I should be able to worry. Talk about yourselves, just made it. Oh, there we go. Actually, the one next to it that broke. That must have been the one. So it was that one. Okay. Alright, so that has snapped off fairly cleanly. And yes, that's coming off there. It should come off here. Yes, it does. So we should be lid on Tamiya thin bottle, Harry, because you know what happens. It ends up all over the floor. So, yep. Success. And Sess had a very big smile on his face. So there we go. And there's no damage per se because, see, it'll link up perfectly. It's come apart nice and clean. So I need to put that to the side, and remember those are the left ones. Okay, so I'll put it on the left side. All right. Hopefully I'll have the same success with this one. I'll get this all apart, and then we can work out a paint procedure. Now, surprisingly, the right side came apart really easily. Exactly what I said on that joint there. I just gave it a little bit of a nudge, and it snapped after a tiny bit of Tamiya thin in there. Now, one thing that would have helped me if I'd remembered is the return rollers are loose. Not that there's much point trying to wiggle them off now, but they were loose, so I could have actually loosened those to help drag off the track links. But that doesn't matter. Well, my usual method is, leave at least the return roller or the drive sprocket loose, so that can actually be sort of removed, and then my track links can come off, sometimes in one whole piece. But breaking them just below the wheel works because it's very easy to cement, it's not seen, and then when you basically set it to dry and cement in place, you're pushing it correctly together and there's no sort of evidence of a bad link join. So look, we've got everything here. I've got the right links, I've got the left links, I've got the turret, and I have got the deck. Now, painting this Panther. Now, these late war tanks all had the sort of yellow primer, the Dunkelgleb, right? So I've got that in live colour, right? RAL 7028, that's the one. But to prime, I'm going to use Steinerres because that Steinerres, that'll work well as an initial colour down, and then I'll be able to basically add this where I need to put up the camo scheme. So, to reveal the camo scheme, because this has been the point of conjecture, I've been sort of hinting about cephalopod for a while, not saying that it was going to be octopus, but sort of making people think. It is going to be spotty. That is the truth. So, when I sort of said cephalopod and thinking of stickers and suckers, I was throwing a red herring, or literally a red octopus into things. What we're going to do is, there's a paint scheme called the leopard spots. And it did exist on at least one Panther that was in France in the middle of July, August 1944. photographic evidence, okay? And I have a book from Bernard which had the colour scheme sort of worked out, okay? Copyright, whatever the publisher is, used only here for illustration purposes, well within public domain. Right, so I can basically use hints off that and ideas off the photo and come together. Now what I will need to do is the turret or the barrel is all German grey. The mantlet too, according to the photos, that appears to be German grey as well. So I'll do that. And then the barrel has spots down its shaft. That's something you don't want to say in public too loud. The wheels are going to have sort of camo patterns over them. I'll go off the photo and I'll match as close as I can to that. And the body didn't seem to have a lot along the sides, but it certainly was above the turret, and it'll be on the tray basically here. So yeah, I'll use a bit of artistic license, but look, now before the rivet carners start going off their tits and screaming and yelling, look, in the late war periods, the tanks were just coming out of the factory in whatever they could paint them, basically. Yes, there was a period when the camo schemes were done in the factory, but that didn't last long, and then they came out in either the yellow primer or they came out in red primer. And at that stage, the directive was to the people in the field, the soldiers in the field, here's some pigment, basically packets, mix it with whatever you got. So they'd mix it with gasoline, turpentine, urine, whatever they could find, and they would hand brush it on. In some cases they could try and spray it on if they had access to a spray gun, but most often than not they smeared it on with whatever they had. And some of the camo schemes were incredibly rough. Most of them were all made up and unique and very clever. They were different. Okay, so there can be a Panther G just like this with a leopard. Right, a leopard is in the Pantherus gene. In fact, all the big cats are in the Pantherus gene, but leopards and panthers are pretty well identical. The only difference is usually with the panther is the spots are the same colour as the fur. You can still see them apparently in the right light, so I've been told. But yeah, the spots are sort of there. So we're going to put leopard spots on a panther tank. That will be interesting. And it is historically correct. Oh, with a bit of license. Okay, let me get on with that. Base colours are now on, and I've added some German grey, well it's actually anthracite but it looks so much like German grey, to the mantlet and the barrel as per my colour scheme. Fits together beautifully still, that's just a dry fit, and I've just put the track links on to see how they look. I've started adding some of the effects for the track links. I've added a wash here. This is just it's called eroding dark rust. It's basically just a brown wash. So I start by adding a brown wash, and then I'll show you the various colours and layers and effects I use, so I get a track link effect that I find pleasing. To get the colour that I wanted for this Panther, I was going to get as close as I could to basically good old Dunkelgelb, right, which is basically the colour it would have been when I left the factory. Now my Stynel Res mustard, which I have used before, pale mustard, it is a bit yellow and bright, but I've got this new one called Sage which I picked up, and I thought it might just dull it down, so I mixed 50% sage and 50% of the mustard, and I ended up with a colour that is so close so close that this is a perfect base for me to put shading and highlighting effects on, and it'll look pretty well Panzer baby poo yellow. Alright, let's get on with these track link effects. I'm going to use a reddy brown wash. In fact, I used two different ones here. I used this one, which was more of a oxidey colour, and then I used another one which was called soot, and it was more of a brown colour. Kind of mix them together to get the effects that I wanted. So this is the more brown one, this is the soot one. And so with those two together, over the top of the grey primer Steiner res, I kind of get this, you know, sort of titanium look, which I like as a base. Now, I start to use my life colour paints. Now this is just a tan colour, and I splodge it on randomly, just little splodges here, there, everywhere. It really doesn't matter. I don't put it on too thick. I just get an effect happening. And then I'll move to my other colour, which is a rot brown. It's yeah, it's a bit blurry there, but it's rot brown. It's basically another oxide colour. Now, I'm not trying to simulate rust. I'm really trying to simulate wear and tear and gunk and everything like that. It'll all make much more sense once we get to the final layers, because we've got a few more things to add. So splodge all that on, and we wait until it dries. Now, I come in with a Molotov pen. Normally I would do this with some silver paint and dry brush, but I thought I'd try the pen and see how it works, and it is brilliant. Just lightly rubbing it across, it just picks up all the highlights, which is all I ever do when I'm trying to do track links. So that is a simple, easy and brilliant way. And don't worry about it being too shiny. We've got another step to go. So there it is. See, look, you just rub it and it picks up, you know, just as easy. In fact, it's easier than dry brushing because you've got the control being a pen. So I really love this. That's a new idea. I'm calling it my own. Yes. Okay, now I also do inside and along the edges because they all get wear and tear. The idea here is trying to show that it's been rubbed back to the metal. So although you've got this mud and sort of rusty and dirty effects, then you know, you're trying to get that metal look. Now, it's a bit too shiny, and also we need some contrast, and we need to smooth out those splotches. So I run a dark wash. This one's slightly green. It's sort of like a lamp black sort of thing. And then there is the final effect. You can see how that's transitioned from, there's the tracks which were just basically grey Steiner res primer, and then with a little bit of a wash, and look how they've turned out. I think that looks fairly realistic, suits my needs, and I really like that look. Yeah, happy with that. Okay, another trick you can do with this little chrome pen is pick up those sprocket ends and anywhere where the metal will get pushed, like the edges of those steel wheels. All of that will, it's just as easy as dry brushing. In fact, I think it's a lot faster. I've left those track links overnight to dry, and you can see how the washes just blend in, but there's quite a patina there, and it makes it interesting. It makes it very interesting. I haven't bothered too much about doing what won't be seen for the moment. I'll just put these on. This is the outside, so I've just worried more about what will be seen, what's hidden behind there. Normally I would do that, but I couldn't be bothered with this one. I've learnt from the past that really none of that ever gets seen. So there we go. So we now need to put them on the hull, and I have already, say I've marked, put the wear marks in, and you can see where I've used that chrome pen, and it's given me all the steel wear, because there's no rubber on these wheels, they're steel wheels, so there's no rubber tyres, so it's all metal that wears against metal. So let's put that together and see how it looks. Got the links on, and what I've done is I've put a little wad there of tissue to push the track links down to where the sag's supposed to go to. It goes to the third one, so it goes to that one there. And there still should be enough linkage to join up, because that's how they were done years ago when I first set the links. and I'm putting the paint on, they tend to be a little more malleable. It's amazing how they loosen up once you've got a whole lot of paint in there. And this is water-based paint too, it's not like it's solvent-based paint. Now this link will join up. It's a bit fiddly, but it will join up. It's just under a bit of tension, so I'm going to have to glue that and hold that for it to remain in place. So I'm going to use some Revel contactor, which is going to give me a better bond than like Tamiya Thin, because Tamiya Thin is not going to eat into all that paint and get into all that plastic the way that Revel contactor will. Revel contactor will take longer, so I'm going to have to sit here for a while and twiddle my thumbs while I make this all work. So there we go. They are together. And there you go. I only need one hand to do it. I'll just hold that all in place. Probably, rather than wreck those smokestacks, I'll put it up on something. There we go. They were starting to bend uncontrollably out of the way. So I've just got to wait for that to cement. It won't take long. And then I can look at addressing that sag problem. I've left this here to set for a while. Made up this little jig using a couple of these little helpers. So they can now come away. And that's had plenty of time to set. So let's see. Yep, they've glued down nicely. Same on that side. And what I've done here is put in this tiny little wad, which has given me the sag. So that just needs some super glue in there to well and truly set that track link in place so it doesn't move. And there we go. And I think that effect that I've used has turned out quite nicely. And they'll really look good once I put the top on that. So I think this is a good place to leave the video for now, because what I've got to do next is I'm going to put some chipping, only a little bit. I'm not going to spend forever chipping the thing. A bit of light chipping on there, and then the camo. Now, one thing that I'm not sure about, and maybe you can give me some suggestions. The tools. Now I'm sort of in two minds. Do I leave them the colour as though they were just sprayed over with the Dunkelpoo yellow and then add the camo over that and do it sort of that way? Or do I paint the tools in place, you know, metal for metal, wood for wood, the same, you know, what they should be, which is what I've done pretty well on all the rest of my armour. I've always painted up the tools basically in the colours they should be. So maybe you can give me some suggestions there. Tell me what you think. So it's either paint the tools or leave them camo coloured and just wash all over it and put the camo on it. Don't know. So that's it. Next time, the Panther gets its spots. But that's it for now. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you like where I'm going with the Panther, and we'll finish it off next time. So, it's goodbye from Australia, and it's hooroo from Harry Houdini.